think, Todd, a lot of people are still trying to make sense of what happened and who he was. So let's start with what was your research like as far as interviewing Brandy, his wife, the family, and all the people around him?
Well, Brandy was amazing. She really shed a lot of light on what Roy was like, the struggles he went through, on the field and off the field throughout his life. And the thing that really stuck out to me, Brian, about this book is I probably talked to more than 100 people. And I talked to catchers that caught him in Double-A, people that played with him half a season, and he had a tremendous impact on them, even if they haven't talked to him in 10 to 15 years. I mean, Roy Halladay had that type of impact on people because of his competitiveness, his desire to win, the things that he taught them. And, even just people that he was off the field with. He coached his two boys. It was a passion of his. He started his second career as a mental skills coach for the Phillies. And I talked with minor leaguers that work with Roy, and he said, this guy would text me, Roy Halladay would sit down at the food room in Clearwater and almost beg us to come up and talk to him. I mean, he wanted to help people. And I think he wanted to help people because on the mental side of the game, he struggled a lot throughout his career, especially early in his career. And he knew that he wasn't alone, and so he wanted to help people like Harvey Dorfman, the famous sports psychologist, helped him.
Well, that's part of the whole juxtaposition, right? And we were talking about that he was coaching his sons. The day that his plane went down, I was on the set, and so we were looking at his Twitter feed, and it seemed to be so much joy in his life, and yet there were drugs found in his system. He was doing daredevil acts with his plane. So where do we arrive with his life after baseball?
I think Brandy put it best. It was a quote in the book. She said, something that might be simple for me to deal with might be difficult for you. Something that's, difficult for you might be easier for me. Everybody has struggles, even Roy Halladay. You think of Roy Halladay, Hall of Fame pitcher, multiple Cy Young Award winner, all-star, perfect game, no-hitter, but he's human just like all of us. And that doesn't make him, a bad person. The way he treated people and acted towards his teammates and friends and family, I think, carries on his legacy more than what happened on the day that he died.
Describe what it was like when he was famously sent to the minors, and it said he rebuilt himself. Tell us about that.
Yeah, he had a 10.64 ERA in 2000 with the Blue Jays, and you hear that and you go, that's terrible, right? But it's still to this day the single-season highest ERA of any pitcher in baseball history, 50 or more innings in a season. So he was historically bad. Former first-round pick, historically bad. He gets sent down to A-ball the next season, and he basically gets torn down mentally and physically. Mel Queen with the Blue Jays totally changed his delivery. He said, if you don't do what I tell you to do, you're going to be out of baseball in a few months. And Roy's like, okay, I got to do that. Brandy found the Mental ABCs of Pitching, the book by Harvey Dorfman, the mental skills book. He devoured that book. He read it multiple times over the course of the year. Then he met Harvey, and he basically became tutored by him, mentored by him, and followed him throughout the rest of his career. And Roy said throughout his life, getting the mental side of the game to him was the biggest key to his turnaround. Before, he would go out on the mound when he was a young pitcher and he'd go, I got to go 7 innings, 3 runs or fewer, or I'm a failure. Harvey taught him just to go worry about the next pitch. Infielder lets a ball go between his legs, don't worry about it, it's over. Worry about the next pitch. And that's what Roy kind of wanted to teach these other pitchers, these young pitchers that he's working with on the Phillies' minor league side.
Okay, what were the last few months of his life like? I'm sure you had to get into that specifically, right?
Yeah, I did. He had gotten out of rehab. He was still struggling. He had this debilitating back pain, which was why he was on medications. He was still battling depression and social anxiety. He was still struggling. But in talking to Brandy, Roy's widow, and Roy's family members, they thought he was very slowly starting to turn a corner. Like I said, he had gotten the job with the Phillies. He loved coaching his kids. It wasn't going to be an overnight fix, and Brandy points that out. She's like, listen, yes, he had medications in his system. Of course he did. He wasn't past it yet, but they all believed that if he had a little bit more time, if he hadn't died the day that he did, that he would have gotten better and maybe been able to live a more normal life.
Are there any parallels to the extremes, the ups and downs in the career and the extremes in his life as well?
I think so, because he always took things to the maximum. He had to run hard. He had to lift the most weights. He could never stop working out. I was talking to one of his old trainers when he was in Toronto. He would get up in the middle of the night and pound a protein shake just so he could make sure he was accountable for the amount of calories he could take during the day. I mean, this is a guy that did everything to the extreme, and that was that way with flying. It was that way with coaching. Coaching with the Phillies as minor leaguers, he had to do everything to the best of his abilities. He could never not do his work. If he didn't do his work, he wouldn't feel good about himself, and that's how he got his confidence.
Well, his workouts were legendary. I mean, even guys like Chase Utley would comment on it. So even the top prepared professionals would marvel at what he was able to do and what he had to do.
I mean, he would be on an airplane and he'd have two iPads set up, and on the left iPad there would be the last 20 pitches that a hitter faced, right? The last 20 at bats. The iPad on the right would be the last time 10 times he faced that hitter. He would go back and forth. He had notebooks spread out. There would be pitchers that would sit behind him and kind of peek over his shoulder, just because they knew if I could figure out what I'm supposed to do, because I'm watching Roy figure out what he's supposed to do. I mean, he never stopped. Guys are on the plane watching movies, eating, playing cards. Roy's watching video because he had to prepare for his next start.
Interesting. Well, good luck with the book. Congratulations on it.
Thank you.
And I hope it's a good lesson for people out there to take. Thank you very much.